time for Dave101.
It was a good time had at Denver, Colorado's MUFON Symposium for 2022, where I got the pleasure of speaking in front of hundreds of people talking about media in the UFOs. You know, one thing about MUFON is they are a research module, shall we say, that really tries to do it right. They try and bring in the right people. They try and bring in the right conversation to what we are trying to accomplish in the world of UFOs. However, there was something that came out of this past weekend that really didn't sit well with me. And it involves the paranormal and orbs. So on the Friday, during one of the state directors' meetings with the MUFON Board of Directors, there was a highly contested argument between many state directors and member of MUFON's board, Steve Hudgens. Steve Hudgens is a guy who loves UFOs. He loves them so much, he thinks that everything's a UFO. Now, I could be exaggerating there just a little bit, but this is where it causes problems. You see, Steve Hudgens doesn't want MUFON investigators talking anything paranormal, anything cryptid, or anything outside the boundaries of unidentified aerial phenomena. As he states, MUFON is a UFO organization. It has nothing to do with paranormal and nothing to do with orbs and nothing to do with cryptids. So, if there is a report that comes in that involves the paranormal, guess what? It's edited. It's pushed aside. Now, this isn't anything new that we haven't heard in this field before, because with the BFRO, which stands for the Bigfoot Research Organization, we know they're all about the footies, and we know 100% that they both edit and leave out any reports that have anything to do with UFOs or paranormal. No, it's all about cryptids and cryptids only. Well, now, thanks to Steve Hudgens, we see the same thing happening with MUFON. Now, my concern about this is I don't think that Steve Hudgens fully understands the points that he is making. I don't think he fully understands the dangers of pushing at the top of his throat ideal that may not be suitable with the rest of what is going on. To me, it sounds very naive. To me, it sounds very short-sighted. To many of the state directors and investigators, they're throwing their hands up in the air and saying, what do we do? What do we do? See, here's the problem. By going by what Steve Hudgens says, MUFON statistics going forward mean nothing. Zero, zilch, nada. There's going to be those who disagree with me, but I will argue this. The minute you start editing reports because you don't believe in paranormal, or you're not a paranormal investigator or a paranormal organization, you have fraudulently changed your numbers. That doesn't sit well with me and shouldn't sit well with any one of you. MUFON, being the big dog on campus, wants to remain credible. getting into the paranormal where there's orbs, ghosts, and everything, which some people have stated seeing, does not constitute your numbers being edited. No numbers should be edited at all, at any time. A person who files a report can only tell you what happened to them. And if ghosts or cryptids were involved during their encounter, that's the report. You don't change it because you have an agenda. You don't change it because you're a UFO group. You make room for it. Look, this research is ever expanding. We see people like Lou Elizondo talking about how it's about everything. The phenomena is everything. We've seen for years researchers like David Weatherly or Timothy Renner, Melinda Leslie, talk about how everything seems to coincide with one another. This isn't new. This isn't new at all. But the idea that in 2022, MUFON would regress itself, thank you to Steve Hudgens, for not wanting to investigate cases where paranormal is involved, it's unconscionable to think that he thinks his group can provide accurate numbers when they can't. It becomes a false database. It becomes false reporting. They become exactly what the BFRO is, which is sloppy, which is inaccurate, which is not good for anybody who wants to file a report. This MUFON idealism that they are about UFOs is true. They love their UFOs. They work hard for their UFOs. They got some of the best investigators going. But when you change your ideals and start yelling at your state representatives that you cannot use the word paranormal while connecting MUFON, and this goes to podcasts as well, that seems a little dictatorial for someone who is pushing very naive concepts on where the information is going. Now, people I talked to who were inside that meeting do understand that there were many state directors yelling back at Steve Hudgens, who was making a fool out of himself. And look, I don't care if this costs me another MUFON conference ever by saying this. I had a great time. I would love to speak to them, but my job is also to call it out. Call it as I see it. And MUFON, you're wrong on this. You are 100% wrong to eliminate anything, because the minute you eliminate anything, you have an agenda. What is your agenda, MUFON? Is it getting more involved with government? Is it building your own status a little bit more? Is it about money? Whatever it is, we know your statistics are now flawed. They are flawed. The one thing that we seem to, in this field, not care about is the statistics. We don't care that the BFRO makes them up. And now, for most of us, we're not going to care that MUFON is as well. That's sad. Because as we push for accuracy, as this entire phenomena starts to come together and realize that cryptids are the same as UFOs, which are the same as ghosts, which are the same as consciousness, which is the same as intuition, we're not getting anywhere. We're not pushing the ball forward. MUFON needs to have stronger leadership when it comes to the old boys club that they have. And there are, trust me, some good people on MUFON. I think of Terry Ling being one of them. She's brilliant. However, if you are pushing an agenda, if you are pushing on changing your statistics, your numbers cannot be trusted. Look, I don't care if you're wanting to tie yourselves to the government, because we're seeing more and more of MUFON trying to do that again. You can do it exactly the way you want. But if I'm someone who has been traumatized by my report that I filed, and I see that somebody at MUFON has edited it because it included a Bigfoot or it included a ghost, I now know that I can't trust MUFON for taking and filing the right stories. Look, there are going to be many people who jump on defending MUFON on this bandwagon here. But you cannot justify mishandling numbers, changing reports, and then asking your membership to go along with that. It's devastating. It's low, it's shallow, and it doesn't look good. They are going to have people quit over this. I already know. Because people want MUFON to be more transparent. The problem that we have is the board of directors doesn't want to be. When you have people like Steve Hudgens wanting to ban the word paranormal, it makes the organization look a little bit more questionable on what are they trying to hide. MUFON has never been more popular than it has as of today. And I loved speaking at their event this past weekend in Denver. But we must call the ace of spades the ace of spades when it's drawn. And what's been drawn up here is MUFON is about to ruin any credibility with their statistics. We cannot trust them as of this moment forward. We're not going to know how many UFO reports have been scrubbed. We're not going to know how many UFO reports have been edited. We're not going to know how many UFO reports have been pushed to the side because of other anomalous happenings. And I hope that doesn't make sense to you either. The one thing about MUFON is they're trying to be scientific. Science is about expanding. It's about pushing the limits to what we don't know. Not about covering up numbers and statistics to fit into the categories we already do. And that's what's very disappointing. All of us should be upset that MUFON has decided to take this next course of action. And I believe it will reflect in their membership as well. MUFON will never go away. They will never be disbanded. But what we can hope for is one day, just one measly day, that they could realize the error in their ways. That is your Dave101 for tonight. If you're on YouTube watching this, do us a favor, leave me a comment below and let me know what you think. I'm very curious about following this up, which we will once